Jiho stared at Hana like she had lost her mind. We can't rescue them. We barely have time to save ourselves. We have to try, Hana said, already checking the map on their communicator. Look, 2 pairs are together here, about 1 kilometer west. 1 pair is north of us, maybe 2 kilometers. If we move fast, we can reach them. And then what? How do 6 extra people help us survive a massive storm? We don't survive separately, Hana explained, moving quickly through the forest. We survive together. Come on. Jiho had learned not to argue with Hana about Earth survival, so he followed. The wind was already picking up, bending trees and sending leaves swirling through the air. The temperature was dropping fast. They found the first pair within 30 minutes. Hyunwoo Park, one of the human students Hana had met briefly at the academy, was trying to help his partner build a shelter. The partner, a being with blue skin and 4 arms, was shaking badly from the cold. Hana? Hyunwoo looked up in surprise. What are you doing here? Rescuing you, Hana said bluntly. That shelter won't hold in what's coming. Come with us. We know where there's better protection. We can't just leave, Hyunwoo's partner said through chattering teeth. The test requires us to survive independently. The test requires you to survive, Hana corrected. It doesn't say you have to die to prove a point. Come on, they didn't argue further. The 4 of them moved toward the location of the other students. The wind was getting stronger. Rain started to fall, light at first, then heavier. Finding the other pair was harder. They had taken shelter in a shallow depression between rocks, but they were completely unprepared for a serious storm. One was a student from a desert world who had never seen this much water in her life. The other was from a low-gravity planet and was struggling with Earth's pull even without the added challenges of a storm. We're going to die here, aren't we? The desert world student said when she saw them approaching. Not if we move right now, Hana said. Can you walk? I think so. Then walk. We have a chance if we hurry. 6 people and aliens now moved through the forest as the storm grew worse around them. Hana led, using every navigation trick she knew. Jiho helped support the students who were struggling. Hyunwoo brought up the rear, making sure no one fell behind. The village was still 2 kilometers away when the storm truly hit. Rain poured down so hard they could barely see 3 meters ahead. Wind roared through the trees, breaking branches. Lightning flashed, followed by thunder that seemed to shake the ground. We're not going to make it, the low-gravity student shouted over the storm. Hana's mind raced. The village was too far. The cave they had used before was in the wrong direction. They needed shelter now. Then she remembered. Yuna, the park ranger, had mentioned her grandfather used the cave system during bad weather. She had also mentioned that her family had lived in these mountains for generations. That meant there might be other shelters, other places that locals knew about. Look for anything man-made, Hana shouted to the group. Old buildings, stone walls, anything humans might have built. They spread out slightly, searching while staying close enough to see each other. It was Jiho who found it, a small structure made of stone partially hidden by overgrown bushes. It was old, maybe a shepherd's shelter or a hunter's cabin from decades ago. Here, Jiho called out. They all crowded into the small stone building. It had no door, and half the roof was missing, but the walls were solid stone and provided some protection from the wind. Hana immediately started organizing. Hyunwoo, help me cover that opening with our shelters. Everyone else, gather anything dry you can find. We need a fire. For the next hour, they worked together. They used their emergency supplies, combined all their resources, and did everything they could to make the small shelter weatherproof. The storm raged outside, but inside they managed to get a small fire going in a protected corner. 6 beings from different worlds huddled together for warmth, sharing body heat the way humans had done in harsh conditions for thousands of years. The desert student was pressed against the blue-skinned student. Jiho had his scales pressed against the low-gravity student's side. Hana and Hyunwoo sat by the fire, keeping it fed with the damp wood they had gathered. This is insane, the blue-skinned student said, her 4 arms wrapped around herself. We're academy students. We have the best survival training in the galaxy, and we're hiding in an old stone box while a storm tries to kill us. Welcome to Earth, Hyunwoo said with a tired laugh. How do humans do this? The low-gravity student asked. How do you live here? We don't think about it, Hana said, feeding another stick to the fire. This is just weather. Bad weather, yes, but weather. It passes. Everything passes if you can wait it out. But doesn't it terrify you? The desert student asked. All this water falling from the sky? The wind that can break trees, the cold that can kill you in hours. Hana thought about it. When I was little, maybe 7 years old, my family went camping. A storm came through a lot like this one. I was so scared. I thought the tent would blow away and we would die. But my mother just sat with me and told me stories until the storm passed. She said that every human alive is descended from people who survive storms like this. We carry that survival in our blood. Your mother sounds wise, Jiho said. She's practical, Hana corrected. Earth teaches you to be practical. They took turns keeping watch through the night, making sure the fire stayed lit and the shelter remained secure. The storm continued for hours, rain and wind battering the mountains. Hyunwoo's communicator buzzed. He checked it and his eyes went wide. Hana, look at this. She took the device and read the message. It was from the Academy observers. The storm had forced 40 students to evacuate. Another 15 had called for rescue, but couldn't be reached due to weather conditions. Search and rescue operations had been launched from multiple locations. But those rescue operations weren't coming from the Academy. They were coming from Earth. Korean mountain rescue teams had mobilized despite the storm. They were searching for the students who had sent distress signals. The message included a note from Captain Seok Jin, who led one of the teams. Tell your Space Academy we don't abandon people in our mountains. Storm or no storm, we're coming. They're risking their lives, the low-gravity student said softly. For us. For strangers. That's what humans do, Jiho said, and there was something like pride in his voice. They help. As dawn broke, the storm finally began to ease. Rain still fell, but the wind died down. Lightning grew distant. The group emerged from their shelter, tired and cold but alive. In the gray morning light, they saw figures moving through the forest below. A rescue team wearing bright orange gear was climbing toward them. Leading them was a woman in a park ranger uniform. Yuna? Hana called out. The ranger looked up and broke into a wide smile. Hana! When we heard there were students stranded in this area, I hoped it was you. Are you all okay? We're fine. Cold and wet, but fine. Yuna and her team brought emergency supplies, thermal blankets, hot drinks, and dry clothes. They checked everyone for injuries and hypothermia. Captain Seok Jin, a weathered man in his 50s, studied the stone shelter with approval. Good thinking using this old place, he said to Hana in Korean. My grandfather built this 60 years ago for shepherds. Glad it's still useful. It saved our lives, Hana replied. Seok looked at the group of alien students with interest. So you're the ones taking the survival test on Earth? How's it going? It's harder than we expected, the blue-skinned student admitted. Seok laughed. It's hard for us too, and we were born here. But you made it through the storm. That's something to be proud of. The rescue team offered to evacuate all of them back to the village, but Hana checked her communicator. They had 22 days into the test. 8 days left, we can finish, she said to the others. The storm is over. We have our supplies. We've proven we can survive the worst Earth can throw at us. We can make it 8 more days. One by one, the others nodded. Even the desert student, who had been certain she would die just hours before, agreed to continue. You're all crazy, Seok said. But he was smiling, just like every other human I know. Okay, we won't evacuate you unless you want it. But we'll check on you in a few days. And if another storm comes, you find shelter immediately. Understood? They agreed. As the rescue team left, Yuna lingered for a moment. You did good, she told Hana quietly, going back for the others. That took courage. It's what anyone would do, Hana said. No, Yuna corrected gently. It's what humans do. There's a difference. Over the next 8 days, the 6 students traveled together. They combined their knowledge. Earth survival skills from the humans, technical understanding from the alien students. They helped each other, taught each other, and survived together. News of their cooperation spread through the Academy network. Professor Velthus was compiling a report that was beginning to read less like a test evaluation and more like an anthropological study of human behavior. Other students across Earth were forming similar groups. The human students were teaching their alien partners everything they knew. The alien students were learning to see Earth not as a death world, but as a world that could be understood and respected. When day 30 finally arrived, Hana stood with Jiho and the others at the extraction point. It was about knowledge, cooperation, and refusing to give up, even when you're on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. At the Academy, Bora Young stared at 17 different screens displaying data from Earth. As the human communications specialist assigned to monitor the test, she had expected to spend 30 days watching students struggle with a hostile planet. What she was seeing instead was changing everything she thought she understood about survival. She pulled up a report from the Sahara Desert. 2 students, both from ice worlds, had been dying of heat exposure on day 3. Tuareg nomads found them and didn't just save them. They taught them how to wrap cloth to protect from sun, how to find water under dry riverbeds, how to travel at dawn and dusk instead of midday. The students were still in the test, still surviving, using knowledge passed down through human generations for thousands of years. Another screen showed events in Siberia. Students from warm worlds were freezing in temperatures their bodies had never experienced. Indigenous peoples brought them to shelters, showed them how to layer clothing, how to recognize frostbite, how to maintain body heat. They offered help without question, without hesitation. Bora created a new file on her terminal and titled it Human Intervention Events. She started compiling every incident where humans had helped alien students. The list grew longer every day. In the Pacific Islands, fishing communities rescued students from riptides and taught them about ocean currents. In the Himalayas, mountain villagers shared food and showed students how to handle high altitude. In the Amazon, indigenous tribes explained which insects were dangerous and which were just annoying. The pattern was clear. Humans weren't just surviving Earth, they had mastered it. Every culture, every community had developed sophisticated knowledge about their environment. And they shared this knowledge freely, even with strange beings from the stars. Bora sent her preliminary report to Ambassador Do-hyun Lee with a note. We're not just tough. We're teachers. Every human culture has become an expert in some aspect of surviving Earth. Back on Earth, Hana and Jiho were discovering this truth firsthand. They had been traveling slowly through the mountains, maintaining their supplies and learning more about each other. Jiho was becoming surprisingly good at reading weather patterns and identifying edible plants. I think I'm starting to understand Earth, Jiho said one morning while they broke camp. It's not that the planet is actively trying to kill you. It's just indifferent. It doesn't care if you live or die. Exactly, Hana said, impressed. Earth isn't evil or cruel, it just is. Humans learned that a long time ago. So we stopped expecting the planet to care about us and started caring about each other. They heard voices ahead on the trail. A group of hikers appeared, Korean students on a weekend trip. When they saw Jiho, they stopped and stared. One of them pulled out a phone to take a picture. Wait, one student said in Korean. Are you part of that space program thing? The aliens taking the survival test? Hana blinked. You know about that? It's all over the news, another student said. Aliens have been using Earth for testing for thousands of years. Some people are angry, but most think it's funny. Like, of course our planet is the hard mode. They spent 20 minutes talking to the hikers who shared snacks and gave advice about trails ahead. One of them showed Jiho pictures on their phone of local wildlife to avoid. Another explained that a village 5 kilometers south had a market day tomorrow if they needed supplies. After the hikers left, Jiho was quiet for a long time. What are you thinking? Hana asked. My planet has universities dedicated to survival science, Jiho said slowly. We study it for years. These students just knew things. Practical things. They learned it from their families, their communities. You all learn survival just by living. I guess we do, Hana said. We don't think about it much. It's just normal life. Across Earth, similar realizations were happening. Academy observers in orbit were documenting everything with growing amazement. Their instruments tracked not just the students, but the humans who kept encountering them. In Australia, a pair of students had been lost for days until Aboriginal trackers found them. The trackers didn't just show them the way back. They taught them to read the land, to see patterns invisible to untrained eyes. In Norway, students struggling with the cold met Sami herders who explained why their traditional clothing worked better than advanced thermal suits in certain conditions. In Kenya, Maasai guides showed students how to move safely through areas with large predators. Knowledge developed over countless generations. Professor Veltis reviewed the data from his office on the Academy station. His crystalline form flickered with what might have been confusion or wonder. He opened a communication channel to the Grand Council. I need to report something, he said. We have been testing students on Earth for 40,000 years. I now realize we have been testing them against the wrong thing. Explain, Counselor Shenra's voice responded. We thought we were testing them against a hostile planet, Veltis said, but we were actually testing them against the standard that humans set for survival. Every location we chose as impossibly difficult is a place where humans have lived successfully. Every challenge we thought was extreme is a challenge humans face and overcome regularly. Are you saying humans are more advanced than we realized? Cormath asked. No, Veltis said carefully. I'm saying we were measuring advancement wrong. Humans don't have our technology, but they have something else. They have 300,000 years of experience surviving on a world that would kill most species in weeks. Every human culture has become expert survivors, and they share that expertise freely. He pulled up statistics on his screen. Students who encountered humans and accepted their help have a 60% pass rate. Students who avoided humans have a 4% pass rate. The human students themselves? 100% are still active in the test. There was silence on the other end of the communication. All of them? Shenra asked finally. Every human student? Every single one, Veltis confirmed, including Hana Kim, who is currently in one of the more challenging zones and treating it like a camping trip. Back in the Korean mountains, Hana had no idea she was being discussed by the Grand Council. She was too busy teaching Jiho how to catch fish with his hands, a skill her brother had taught her when she was 8 years old. The key is patience, she explained as they knelt by a stream. Don't grab. Let the fish come to you. Then move fast. Jiho tried and failed several times before finally catching a small trout. His scales flashed bright green with excitement. I did it. I actually caught food with my hands. Good job, Hana said, genuinely proud. You're adapting well. I'm learning, Jiho corrected. There's a difference. Adaptation is what my body does automatically. Learning is what humans do deliberately. You share knowledge. You teach. Every human I've seen has been trying to help us, even though we're aliens who've been trespassing on your planet for 40,000 years. Hana started a fire to cook their fish. Why wouldn't we help? You need it. Besides, you're not trespassing now. You have permission. But we didn't before, Jiho said. For 40,000 years, we used your home without asking. And humans are just okay with that? Hana shrugged. We didn't know. You didn't know we were here. It was an honest mistake. My grandmother always said holding grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That night, as they sat by the fire, Jiho's communicator buzzed with an update. He read it and his scales went pale again. What's wrong? Hana asked. There's another big storm coming. Bigger than the last one. It's going to hit in 3 days. The Academy is offering early evacuation to anyone who wants it before the storm arrives. Are you thinking about leaving? Hana asked. Jiho looked at the communicator, then at Hana, then at the mountains around them. No, he said finally. I've made it this far, and I trust you. You know this world. You know how to survive it. We know how to survive it, Hana corrected. You've learned a lot, Jiho. You're not the same person who landed here terrified of everything. I'm still terrified of everything, Jiho admitted. But now I know what to do about it. They spent the next 2 days preparing for the storm. Hana taught Jiho everything she could think of about extreme weather survival. They reinforced their shelter, gathered extra firewood, stored water, and made sure they had plenty of food. On the 3rd day, Hana climbed a tall tree to scout the area. What she saw made her heart sink. Dark clouds covered the entire horizon. This wasn't going to be a normal storm. This was going to be bad. When she climbed down, Jiho took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. How bad? He asked. Bad, Hana said honestly. This is going to be one of the worst storms I've seen. We need to find better shelter. The cave where we stayed before is too far, but there's a village about 3 kilometers from here. We could make it before the storm hits. But the test, Jiho said. Are we allowed to go to human villages? Hana checked the test rules on their communicator. It doesn't say we can't, it just says we have to survive with basic supplies for 30 days. We still have our supplies. They started moving toward the village, racing against the gathering storm. As they traveled, Hana noticed something on the communicator. Other students were also heading toward Shelty. The dropship descended through Earth's atmosphere with 200 nervous students inside. Hana sat strapped into her seat, watching Jiho's scales change color from green to pale yellow. Her partner had been reading everything he could find about Earth for 2 weeks straight, and it had only made him more terrified. "Did you know," Jiho said, his voice shaking, "that Earth has something called mosquitoes? Tiny flying insects that drink blood and spread diseases. They're annoying," Hana agreed, "but they won't kill you, probably." Probably? Jiho's scales turned even paler. All around them, other students were having similar conversations. A pair of aquatic beings in environment suits were studying maps of Earth's oceans. 3 students with thick fur were dreading their assignment to tropical zones. Everyone had seen the survival statistics. 12% pass rate. The ship's computer announced drop points. One by one, pairs of students were teleported down to Earth's surface. Hana heard gasps, yelps, and one very long scream before someone was teleported away. She tried not to think about what that meant. Pair 74, Hana, Kim, and Jiho. Drop zone, Korean Peninsula, mountainous region. Terrain, forested highlands. Season, late autumn. Temperature, 10 degrees Celsius and dropping. Jiho looked at Hana with wide eyes. "Is that bad?" "It's a bit cold," Hana said, "but we'll manage. It's actually better than summer. Fewer insects." "Oh, good," Jiho said weakly. "Fewer insects." That's comforting. The teleport field surrounded them. Hana felt the familiar tingle of molecular transportation. And then they were standing in a forest. The air was crisp and cool, smelling of pine trees and damp earth. Leaves covered the ground in shades of red, orange, and brown. In the distance, mountains rose against a cloudy sky. Hana took a deep breath and smiled. This felt like the camping trips her family used to take. Jiho was not smiling. He was turning in circles, his scales shifting through colors like a warning light. There's so much everything, the sounds, the smells. How do you know which ones are dangerous? Experience mostly, Hana said. She knelt down and opened their supply pack. Inside were basic tools, a knife, rope, water purification tablets, a small medical kit, and fire-starting supplies. "Okay, first priority is shelter. It's going to get cold tonight." "How cold?" Jiho asked. "Below freezing, probably. We're in the mountains and it's late autumn." Jiho made a sound like a whimper. His species came from a planet where temperature varied by only 5 degrees year-round. He had never experienced freezing in his life. Hana looked around, assessing their situation with skills her family had taught her. The forest was mostly pine and oak. A small stream ran nearby, which meant fresh water. The ground was relatively flat here, protected by trees and rocks. It would do. "Let's build a shelter against those rocks," she said, pointing. "The rocks will block wind and reflect heat from a fire. We'll use branches and leaves for insulation." For the next 3 hours, Hana worked while teaching Jiho. She showed him which branches were best for building, how to weave them together for stability, how to layer leaves to keep out rain and wind. Jiho was clumsy at first, his 3-fingered hands not made for this kind of work. But he learned quickly. While they worked, Hana explained other things. That bird call means there are no predators nearby. If it goes quiet suddenly, that's when you worry. Those berries are poisonous. These ones are safe but not very tasty. That moss grows on the north side of trees so we can use it for navigation. Jiho absorbed every word like his life depended on it. Because it did. By nightfall, they had a decent shelter and a fire going. Hana had caught 3 fish from the stream using a technique her brother had taught her. They cooked the fish on sticks over the flames while darkness fell around them. "This isn't so bad," Jiho said, eating his portion carefully. Then a wolf howled in the distance and he nearly dropped his fish. "What was that?" "Wolf," Hana said calmly. "They won't bother us near the fire. They're more scared of you than you are of them." "I doubt that very much," Jiho muttered. As they settled in for the night, Jiho checked his emergency communicator. The device could only be used to call for evacuation or to receive emergency broadcasts from the academy. He scrolled through incoming messages. "Hana," he said quietly, 3 students have already failed. 1 is in medical care. The others couldn't handle the conditions. Hana wasn't surprised. Where were they dropped? Amazon rainforest, Australian outback, Sahara Desert. Those are hard places, Hana acknowledged. But people live there. Humans have lived in all those places for thousands of years. How? Jiho asked. How do humans survive in so many different environments? Hana thought about it while watching the fire. We learn, we adapt. We work together, and we don't give up, even when things are hard. Over the next week, Jiho learned what that meant. They experienced their first frost, and Hana showed him how to insulate their shelter better. They encountered a wild boar, and Hana taught him to climb a tree and wait for it to leave. They ran out of fish in the stream, and Hana found edible roots and mushrooms. Each day, more students failed. The communicator updates came regularly: hypothermia, dehydration, injuries from falls or animal encounters, toxic plant consumption. The 12% pass rate was looking optimistic, but something else was happening too. Students who landed near human settlements were reporting strange occurrences. Yeri and her partner had been struggling in the Amazon when indigenous people found them. Instead of being hostile, the humans offered help. They showed Yeri which plants were safe, how to find water, how to avoid dangerous animals. Quan sent a message from Australia saying that ranchers had rescued him and his partner from the outback heat. They gave them water, taught them about the land, and sent them on their way. In the Sahara, nomadic people shared food and shelter with students who were dying of heat stroke. Jiho read these reports with wonder. Humans just help, even though we're aliens? Of course, Hana said. Why wouldn't we? You need help. Most species don't work that way, Jiho said quietly. Most civilizations are competitive, territorial. We help our own kind, but strangers. He trailed off. Hana poked the fire with a stick, sending sparks up into the night. Maybe that's because you didn't grow up on death worlds. When the planet itself is trying to kill you, you can't afford to see other people as enemies. You need them. We need each other. On their 10th day, they heard voices in the distance. Hana recognized Korean being spoken and felt a wave of relief. They had drifted closer to civilization than she realized. Should we hide? Jiho asked nervously. Why? They're just people. They followed the voices and found a hiking trail. A woman in a park ranger uniform was checking trail markers. When she saw them, she stopped and stared. Hello, Hana said in Korean. Sorry to startle you. We're on a training exercise. The ranger, whose name tag read Yuna Choi, looked at Jiho with wide eyes. Is your friend okay? He looked sick. I'm fine, Jiho said in heavily accented Korean. He had been using a translator to learn some basic phrases. Just cold. Yuna studied them both for a moment. A training exercise in late autumn? In the mountains? That's dangerous. We're being careful, Hana assured her. There's a storm coming, Yuna said, pointing at the clouds gathering overhead. Big one. You should find better shelter. There's a cave system about 2 kilometers north. My grandfather used to take shelter there during bad weather. It's dry and protected. She gave them detailed directions, marked their map, and made them promise to be safe. As she left, she called back. If you need help, there's a ranger station 5 kilometers east. Don't be stubborn. Pride isn't worth freezing to death. That night in the cave Yuna had told them about, Jiho asked, Does your species always do that? Help strangers without asking for anything in return? Hana arranged their sleeping area, laying out insulated material they had made from pine boughs. Not always. Humans can be selfish too. We fight, we disagree, but most of us understand that we're all trying to survive on a difficult world. Helping others means others might help you someday. That's very practical, Jiho said. Earth taught us to be practical, Hana replied. The storm hit that night just as Yuna had predicted. Wind howled outside the cave. Rain poured down in sheets. Temperature dropped below freezing. Inside the cave, Hana and Jiho stayed warm and dry. Jiho checked his communicator and went very still. Hana, 15 more students have failed today. The storm caught them unprepared. Some needed medical evacuation. Hana felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. 15 students from advanced civilizations with technology humans could barely imagine had been defeated by a simple autumn storm. We're only 10 days in, Jiho said softly. 20 days left. How many of us will make it? Hana looked out at the storm raging beyond their cave entrance. This was just normal weather for Korea. She had experienced worse. Every human on Earth had experienced worse. However many make it, she said, they'll understand something important. They'll understand how humans survived, not because we're stronger or smarter, but because we learned that Earth doesn't care about individuals. It only respects communities. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, a human and an alien sat by their small fire, warm and safe, proving that survival was about more than just strength. The Grand Council chamber was a massive sphere that floated in space. with windows showing the stars beyond. 12 beings sat in a circle, each representing one of the founding civilizations of the galactic community. They had been arguing for 3 hours. Hana stood in the center of the sphere, feeling very small. Beside her stood Ambassador Do-Hyun Lee, the first human to represent Earth in galactic politics. He had arrived on the fastest ship available as soon as he heard the news. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," said Counselor Shenra, an ancient being made of pure energy that glowed orange in the chamber. "For 40,000 years we have been dropping our students onto an inhabited world. The world was not inhabited by a spacefaring species at the time of initial survey," replied Counselor Cormath, who looked like a massive spider made of silver metal. "The error is understandable." "Understandable?" Another counselor slammed multiple appendages on their platform. "We have violated first contact protocols, territorial sovereignty, and basic ethical standards." Hana watched the council argue back and forth. Some seemed genuinely upset about the mistake. Others seemed more worried about the political implications. A few kept staring at her like she was some kind of strange puzzle. "The real question," said Counselor Shenra, "is what we do now. The test is scheduled to begin in 2 weeks. 200 students are already preparing." "Cancel it, obviously," said a counselor whose name Hana hadn't learned yet. "Find another planet." "There is no other planet," Cormath replied. "Test world designates Sigma Earth 773 as unique in its combination of challenges. We have searched for 40,000 years and found nothing comparable." "Then perhaps," Shenra said slowly, "the test has become obsolete." "Or perhaps," Cormath countered, "we have finally discovered why this planet is so effective as a test. It was designed by evolution to challenge life itself, and humans passed that test." All 12 counselors turned to look at Hana again. She tried not to fidget under their gaze. "Young human," Shenra addressed her directly, "you have been remarkably quiet during our discussion." "I'm just trying to understand," Hana said honestly. "You've been testing students on my planet for thousands of years?" "Yes," Shenra confirmed. "In remote areas. We always ensured no contact with native species. We believed the native species were not developed enough to notice. But we did notice," Hana said. "There are stories. Legends about strange lights in the sky, weird objects in the wilderness. We thought they were myths." Do-Hyun cleared his throat. "The council has offered us 2 options, Hana. I wanted you here because this decision affects you directly." Shenra's energy form pulsed. "Option 1. We immediately cancel all testing on Earth. We formally apologize to humanity. Earth becomes a protected world, and we ensure no unauthorized visits ever occur again." "That sounds good," Hana said. "However," Cormath added, "there are consequences. Protected worlds are considered too primitive for full participation in the galactic community. Humanity's application for membership would be delayed by approximately 500 years. Hana's eyes widened. 500 years? "It is standard procedure," Shenra explained. "Protected species are given time to develop without outside interference. It is for their own good." "But we're not primitive," Hana protested. "We have space travel. We have advanced technology. We've made contact with you. By galactic standards, you are very young," Shenra said gently. 500 years is not long for us. "It's forever for humans," Hana replied. "Most humans live less than 100 years. The council was quiet for a moment, as if this fact had not occurred to them. "What's option 2? Do-Hyun asked. Cormath leaned forward on his platform. "Option 2, the test proceeds as planned. Earth remains a test site. However, we acknowledge humanity's sovereignty. Students will be informed they are visiting an inhabited world. All safety protocols will be enhanced." "And what does humanity get from this?" Do-Hyun asked carefully. "If Hana participates in the test and passes," Cormath said, "humanity will be fast-tracked for galactic community membership. Full membership. Within 5 years instead of 500. Hana felt her stomach drop. "You want me to take the survival test on my own planet?" "You would not be alone," Shenra said. "You would be paired with another student, as all are, and you would have the same supplies and restrictions as everyone else." "But I grew up there," Hana said. "Isn't that an unfair advantage?" "Perhaps," Cormath said. "Or perhaps it proves our point. You survived your entire life on a world we use to test our best students. That alone is remarkable." Do-Hyun touched Hana's shoulder. "You don't have to decide right now. This is too much pressure to put on one person. How long do I have?" Hana asked. 48 hours, Shenra replied. The test begins in 2 weeks. We need time to prepare if we choose option 2, or time to relocate if we choose option 1. Hana nodded slowly. Can I contact my family? Of course, Do-hyun said. I'll take you to a private communication room. As they left the council chamber, Hana's mind was racing. 500 years versus 5 years, the fate of humanity's place in the galaxy, resting on her passing a test on her own homeworld. It was absurd. It was terrifying. It was the biggest decision of her life. In the communication room, Do-hyun helped her set up a call to Earth. The time difference meant it was early morning in Korea. Her brother Minho answered, looking sleepy and confused. Hana, what's wrong? It's 5 in the morning. Minho, I need to talk to you and Nari. Is she there? She's at university. What's happening? You look stressed. Hana explained everything. The test, the revelation, the choice. As she spoke, she watched Minho's expression change from sleepy to alert to completely shocked. Wait, he said. You're telling me aliens have been using Earth as some kind of extreme survival course? For 40,000 years, Hana confirmed. Minho started laughing. It began as a chuckle and grew into full belly laughs. That's actually hilarious. We're living on a death world. No wonder life feels hard sometimes. Minho, this is serious. I need to decide if I should take the test. Her brother's laughter faded. He looked at her through the screen with the same expression he used to have when they were kids and she had scraped her knee. What do you want to do? He asked. I don't know, Hana admitted. If I take the test and fail, I've wasted everyone's time. If I take it and pass, humanity gets into the galactic community faster. But if I don't take it at all, we're stuck waiting 500 years. Those aren't the right questions, Minho said. The question is, are you going to let fear make your choice? Hana was quiet. You worked so hard to get into that academy, Minho continued. You competed with species that have technologies we can't even imagine. And you kept up. You didn't quit when it was hard. You didn't quit when you were the only human. Why would you quit now? Because this is bigger than me, Hana said. This is about all of humanity. Then trust humanity, Minho said. Trust that we're tougher than we look. We survived Earth for 300,000 years before anyone else even noticed we existed. We can survive a little longer if you fail. But Hana, you won't fail. You're one of the toughest people I know. After she ended the call, Hana sat alone in the communication room for a long time. She thought about Earth, about the mountains where her grandmother lived, about the ocean where she learned to swim, about the forests where her family went camping. She thought about all the humans who had ever lived, who had survived storms and droughts and predators and diseases, who had built civilizations in deserts and jungles and frozen tundras, who had looked at a hostile world and said, "We'll make this work." When she emerged from the communication room, Do-hyun was waiting. "I'll do it," Hana said. "I'll take the test. But I have one condition." "What condition?" Do-hyun asked. "The other students need to know they're going to Earth, no more secrets. If they're going to visit my home, they should know whose home it is." Do-hyun smiled. "I'll tell the council." 2 days later, the Grand Council announced its decision. The test would proceed. Earth would be acknowledged as humanity's homeworld, and students across the academy began preparing to visit the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, now knowing that billions of humans called it home. Hana Kim sat in the back row of the lecture hall, her tablet glowing with notes she had been taking for the past hour. Around her, 300 students from different corners of the galaxy listened as Professor Veltis explained the final examination. The professor was a tall being made entirely of blue crystal, and when he spoke, his voice echoed like wind chimes in a storm. "This test has broken the spirits of thousands of students over 40,000 years," Veltis said, his crystalline hands moving across the holographic display. "Only 12% have ever passed. Most fail within the first week." Hana leaned forward. She had worked hard to get into the Cosmic Academy of Advanced Civilizations. As the only human among species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, she often felt like she was running just to keep up. But she had never backed down from a challenge. The hologram shifted, showing a planet rotating slowly in the air above them. It was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with green and brown continents scattered between them. White clouds swirled in patterns that looked almost familiar to Hana. "This is Test World Designate Sigma Earth 773, Veltis continued. "It has served as our final examination site for longer than most of your civilizations have existed. Hana squinted at the planet. Something about it tugged at her memory. The parameters are simple, the professor said. You will be dropped in pairs at random locations across this world. You must survive for 30 days with only basic supplies. No advanced technology. No rescue unless you face immediate death. A student with 6 arms raised one of them. Professor, why is this world so difficult? Feltus's crystal body seemed to brighten, the way humans might smile. An excellent question. This planet is what we classify as a Class 12 death world. Observe. The hologram zoomed in, showing forests, mountains, oceans, and deserts. Data scrolled beside each image. 97% of the planet's megafauna are apex predators, Veltus explained. The weather patterns are chaotic and extreme. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions are common. The native microbiology is hostile to 94% of known species. Even the plants are often toxic or dangerous. Hana's heart began to beat faster. She looked more carefully at the continents. That shape, she knew that shape. The atmosphere has high oxygen content, which makes fire spread rapidly and allows insects to grow to terrifying sizes. The gravity is considered heavy by most species standards. The temperature swings between extreme heat and cold depending on location and season. Other students were making worried sounds. Some were already accessing their tablets, probably looking up more information about this death world. Hana didn't need to look anything up. She was staring at the Korean peninsula on the hologram, clear as day. Even the planet's moon is unusually large, Veltus continued, creating powerful tides that make the oceans treacherous. This world has more ways to kill you than any other planet we have discovered. It is perfect for testing whether you have truly learned to survive. Hana's hand went up slowly. Around her, students turned to look. It was rare for her to speak in class. Most of the time, she was too busy trying to understand concepts that other species had learned as children. Yes, Hana, Professor Veltus said, his crystal form turning toward her. Professor, Hana said, her voice steady but quiet. That's Earth, that's my homeworld. The lecture hall fell silent. 300 students from 300 different species stopped moving, stopped breathing, stopped making any sound at all. They all turned to stare at the human in the back row. Professor Veltus's crystal body went completely still. Excuse me? Hana stood up, her legs feeling strange. That's Earth, I can see Korea right there. And that's Japan. That's the Pacific Ocean, those weather patterns. I grew up watching those on the news. She walked down the steps toward the hologram, her tablet forgotten in her seat. As she got closer, she could see more details. The shape of the continents was unmistakable. The cloud formations over the oceans, the ice caps at the poles. I learned to swim in that ocean, she said, pointing. My grandmother's house is in those mountains. My brother is probably in that city right now. Veltus moved closer to his display, manipulating the controls with quick, jerky movements. Data began scrolling across multiple screens. This is not possible. Our records show this planet was surveyed 40,000 years ago. The dominant species at the time were pre-sapient hunters. No technology, no civilization, no language complex enough to— 40,000 years is a long time, Professor, Hana said softly. Humans change, we learn, we grow. A student with scales and 4 eyes raised a claw. But you're saying you come from the test world? The death world? Hana turned to look at her fellow students. They were all staring at her with what she could only describe as horror and disbelief. We don't call it a death world, she said. We call it home. Another student, this one floating in a bubble of liquid, spoke up. How do you survive? My people could not last 3 days in those conditions. We just live there, Hana said, shrugging. You build houses. You learn what plants are safe to eat. You stay away from the dangerous animals. You work together. Billions of humans live on Earth right now. Professor Veltus was still scrolling through data, his crystal body flickering with what might have been confusion or stress. This is unprecedented. In 40,000 years of testing, no one ever checked if the planet had developed intelligent life. It was marked as uninhabitable. Who would think to look? What happens now? Hana asked. Do you cancel the test? Veltus looked up from his screens. Around the lecture hall, students were talking in dozens of languages, their voices rising in pitch and volume. Some were accessing their communication devices. Others were pulling up their own data on Earth. I need to contact the Grand Council, Veltus said. This is far beyond my authority to decide. Class is dismissed. As students filed out of the hall, Many of them kept glancing back at Hana. She heard whispers in languages she didn't understand, but the tone was clear enough: fear, amazement, disbelief. A small reptilian student approached her carefully. Hana, I am Jiho. We are assigned as partners for the test. If the test still happens. Hana looked at Jiho and saw the nervousness in his large eyes. Don't worry, she said, trying to sound reassuring. Earth isn't that bad once you know how to handle it. Jiho made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. The death world isn't that bad, she says. This is my life now. Hana couldn't help but smile a little. She looked back at the hologram of Earth, still rotating peacefully in the air. Home. The place where she had learned to ride a bicycle, had scraped her knees climbing trees, had helped her mother plant vegetables in their garden. The most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. Her home. She wondered what the Grand Council would decide. She wondered if her family knew yet that Earth was famous across the galaxy as a nightmare world. She wondered what her brother Minho would say when he found out. But most of all, she wondered why no one had ever thought to ask the humans how they managed to survive on a planet that killed almost everyone who tried.